Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a fantastic episode of, the Denver Bronco Roundup. I'm your host, Keith Brugman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm not your only guy, because joining us right as we were coming on, man, it's busy lives these days. It's the Rocket Man. It's Mr. Trevor Salzman. Welcome to the show, Trevor. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Keith. Sorry guys for the late timing here. So life gets in the way. So I apologize, guys. But let's have a great show.
Yay, man. We just walked in, man. If I wouldn't have said nothing, nobody would have known the difference. We're all set to go. I know you've been excited about this show. Well, for a few days, we've been talking. Well, for a few days, heck, we've been talking about some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight for weeks, months. Some surprises, though. Got to get to that surprise, man. Just got to say thanks to everyone that's jumping in, part of the posse, being fantastic fans of ours. Appreciate all the likes, share, subscribe, and those who are getting those notification bells as well. Speaking of which, Mr. Ernie Mays coming in here saying, "Go Broncos country only, quarterback in the draft." Yeah, got to be talking about that. That's going to be around the corner as well. Quarterback talk is certainly abound throughout the NFL, including a former quarterback of ours. So, got to say hello, and I've been actually meaning to reach out to this guy because I've been thinking to myself, it's been a while since I heard from Jeremy. Jeremy coming in saying, "Sup, fellas, go Broncos." Absolutely, buddy. Gotta love the positivity that we have as Broncos country. Maybe it's the calluses that we've worn over the last few years. And then Miss Pearl Heater coming in and saying, "Happy Friday, guys." Happy Friday, maybe. The way our episode plans out, it's not really Happy Friday. If you notice, if you follow the Denver Bronco Roundup page, and I think it was over on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network page, you may recognize the hat. The hat is came out of plastic because this is a special hat, guys. This is Justin Simmons 31 signed hat that I got down at training camp, and thanks for the moment of silence as I zoomed in on the camera for anybody that was watching at home. What a great guy. And I said a few words there, but let's get right into it because even Jeremy's coming surprised about Simmons. He thinks Sutton's next. We're going to get into a little bit of that, but got to hit it off right off the bat, Trevor. This is a Justin Simmons recognition and reaction episode. First off, reaction of Justin Simmons in his outright release.
Yeah, Keith. It's very surprising to all of us that Justin Simmons is no longer a Denver Bronco. But I think it's tough. It's a business at the end of the day. It's some people were surprised that the Broncos didn't get anything for Justin Simmons in return, and I mean, I'm not surprised because of where the safety market's at right now. And I do think that the Broncos probably did try to trade him. And I don't think there was a market for him. If they would have traded him, they probably would have had to eat some sort of money off of Justin Simmons' deal just to get a draft pick back. My guess is that they did not want to. They didn't think it was worth the pick getting back to eat the money, so they just outright cut him and saved the money. Now, the next thing is, did he want to restructure here in Denver? That's the next part. I don't know if he wanted to because I think he's seen the kind of the writing on the wall with this team and seen, where's this team going? And so, I think that it was best for both sides to part ways. Of course, we don't want to see a guy like Justin Simmons go, but it's like business end of the day, and now PJ Locke he becomes more of a a guy that they need to go out and resign now, and now they have $18 million in cap room now, so that now PJ Locke's gonna have to become a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, safety has become a priority all of a sudden. Within what 6 months, 8 months, we've seen Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons both disappear, like literally perennial, legends, I guess you could say, in their own right, that locked down that back end like nobody else's business for years for the Denver Broncos. And now that's gone. Now that's gone. And like you said, safety becomes a huge priority. I have to agree. When you look at Justin Simmons' contract, at first I was like astonished. We're just cutting this guy. We're not getting anything for him. But then you look at his contract, and it was an $18.25 million contract. So if someone's going to pick him up in a trade, they're on the hook for dang near $20 million. And then they're going to send you a pick on top of it. That's a lot to eat. That's why, like you said, we would have had to send cash that we really don't have if we really wanted that pick back. Something that we did like with Von Miller. We sent cash with Von Miller. We paid for the rest of his contract. We ended up getting like a third and a fifth for Von Miller. If not, we wouldn't have got that fifth. That fifth wouldn't have been there without us picking it up. We would have got a third standalone for Von Miller, just as an example. So I'm in here with Pearl. I'm totally sad about Simmons as well. Good point of view, and I like this from Left Twix coming over in on YouTube. None of this happens if Pat Bowlen is still alive. You can look back through ownership changes, and boy, we had some ugly ones in this weird transition, and the Bowlen family all involved, and none of these years have been good since Pat Bowlen has really stepped away. I agree. It's tough to tell where this Broncos team would be, but I'm sure it'd be a far way away from what we see right now. I would agree with you, Left Twix. So, Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick of the fantastic K&K Sports Show coming in here saying, happy Friday, DBR, and happy Friday, Posse. Looking forward to a fun-filled show. Yeah, kind of starting off a little bit sad, a little bit somber, I guess you could say, because Justin Simmons, just a fantastic Denver Bronco for a year. I wrote everything down so I wouldn't forget. 3rd round draft pick in the 2016 draft, number 98 overall out of Boston College. He's a 4-time All-Pro, 2019 and then 2021 all the way through 2023. A 2-time Pro Bowler, 2020 and 2023 as well. Interception co-leader in 2022, 12th all-time in solo tackles for the Broncos. 30 interceptions since he's been in the league, which is the most of anybody in the league, and it's 7th all-time on the Broncos list. Puts him up there with, how about in front of a guy like Mr. Steve Atwater, just to kind of give you an idea. And I'll say this, and I'll let you kind of reminisce if you want to as well, Trevor, but being that I have the hat and I have the signature, and it was a firsthand experience, and not only one, will I say, I had several with Justin Simmons at training camps. He was a stalwart in the community. Did huge things for like the Boys and Girls Club. Obviously was up for Peyton Manning the Man of the Year awards and was a nominee many times. Darian Williams, Good Guy Award, a winner for the Denver Broncos. And they say, don't meet your heroes, Trevor. Don't meet your heroes because you're going to end up being disappointed. I can tell you, if someone out there thinks Justin Simmons is their hero, go meet him. Go meet him, and you won't be disappointed. And there's not very many people I think you can say that about, but that's the type of guy he is. So he's going to be missed. I love Justin Simmons. He's a phenomenal athlete and just a stand-up guy. But I can tell you one thing. I hope he goes someplace. I'm going to put out like a name like the Detroit Lions and get a chance to be playing in the playoffs and possibly a run at a Super Bowl, because this guy deserves it. All these years, not one sniff of the playoffs. Trevor, I'm going to let you take the microphone for a moment, bud.
Yeah, obviously it's a tough time because you have we're the fan side of things, but it's it's something where we're going through this now, but honestly, we've been through it before. With TJ Ward, I remember when he got released, it was a little bit of a shocker to the fans, and I know that DT when he was traded, Von Miller when he was traded, we've been through these with veterans. It happens, honestly, and I feel for those fans that really are Justin Simmons guys. I'm a Justin Simmons guy, but at the end of the day, for me, I always think it's a business first, and I understand the business side of it, and so I try not to get too far into the fandom side because we've been through this before. So I've been through the roundabout for a little while now. So
Mhm.
of course it's not easy, nevertheless. But again, like you said, Justin Simmons going somewhere where he wants to win. Also, the Philadelphia Eagles might be a team that he goes to. They need a safety. They've got cap room. They've got Vic Fangio. They got Christian Parker, who was with Denver last year, DB's coach. He's
Yep.
going there. So there's going to be spot for him. He's going to go to a contender. I don't think he's going to go sign anywhere else. Maybe that's what he wanted to go do. Maybe he wanted to go sign with a contender. Maybe Denver tried to restructure his deal, which I thought they would do. I'm not
Mm.
surprised they didn't get anything for Justin Simmons. What I'm surprised the most about it is they weren't able to restructure his contract
Yeah.
and keep him in Denver. But I do think he deserves the right to go play somewhere else if that's what he wants to go do. He will always be remembered as a Denver Bronco. We have to keep that in mind. He will always be a Denver Bronco, regardless of what he did for the community and just for on and off the field. He was an all-around pro. He's amazing. And thank you to Justin Simmons. Really, thank you to Justin
Yeah.
Simmons for everything that you did. You put, all your free time into the community. He was fantastic. And so I think it's something we definitely need to think about is not just thanking Justin Simmons for on the field, but what he did off the field as well. He will
Yeah.
definitely be missed, and good luck and best wishes to Justin Simmons going forward.
Absolutely, bud. Absolutely. Think about all those losing seasons, all those disappointments, and how many times did you go see Justin Simmons just go off or have a bad attitude or not be playing or none of this happens. He is a constant pro on and off the field. Gonna miss him. Scoops comes in here. Mr. Scoops, check out What's the Scoop over on the K&K Sports Show. Fantastic. And we need to get Scoops back on here. I know that's overdue as well. I need to get a lot of people probably back on this show. Got to get those invites out. So sorry if anybody feels like they're missing out. Don't feel bad. You're in a big group of people who are missing out. That being said, he says, much respect for Simmons. Hope he does not come to the NFC East unless it's in midnight green, of course. So, yeah, absolutely. And there's that possibility. Like we said, the Eagles. Now, Vic Fangio and him, there was always rumors that they didn't maybe have the best relationship. But I can tell you Christian Parker and him and the ability to be on a playoff worthy team with the Eagles. I'm sure Scoops is smiling with that. He's also coming in here and saying, "Dang right, Trevor." He's in totally in agreement, and Heater and Pearl's coming in total agreement with me. So, um, are you excited for a little bit of Turner Yell next year? Says Left Twix. Well, there's a few options that we obviously have, and we could go through them. We do have a Turner Yell. We do have a JL Skinner. We do have a PJ Lock. We do have a who else am I missing there?
Caden
There's
Stearns.
one. Caden Stearns. Thank you. Caden Stearns. That's a possibility. And I was thinking even today, would it even be a possibility for like a guy like Art Green to be competing, at least looking at that position? There might be flexibility, especially with all the weird kind of corner situations that we have going on. It'll be interesting to see what we have going on with K'Wan Williams. But what do you think? Turner Yell, PJ Locke, all these different names I put out there. Are we big swingers or as big as we can be in free agency? Are we going in the draft? How do we replace all of everything that we're missing? As Left Twix says, heck, Simmons is gone. Now we got Kareem Jackson gone. It's down to a few.
Well, it starts with resigning PJ Locke. He has become a must now, and he's on the open market, so you have to get him, bring him back. He was very durable last year for them. But honestly, Keith, this is also a part of it. What if the Broncos are fans of what they have in house, and they bring back PJ Locke? What if they are fans of Turner Yell, Caden Stearns, and all those guys? What if they are? I mean,
Yeah.
that's certainly a possibility we have to consider with all this. Is maybe that's what they like. Maybe that's what the Broncos wanted. They wanted to get younger. It's part of it. They're
Mm-hmm.
starting to rebuild the foundation a little bit. You want to start get younger. It's tough, obviously, but it's something that they may have to do and probably need to do sooner rather than later. They probably waited too long, to be honest with you. You've seen it with the Justin Simmons thing where he getting released. What about the trade deadline? You could have probably got a second round draft pick for him, or
Mm.
traded him last year when the safety market wasn't that great, and he could have got a high draft pick for him. And you waited a year too late, and now you have to release him. And the safety market has turned, and we're seeing all these these safeties on the open market just sitting out there, and teams are releasing them because they're not the safety market's not safety position in the NFL is not as valuable as it maybe was last year.
Yeah, and I thought you were going a different direction as far as waiting too long, because this is what I'd say. What did we talk about all last year? I want Marvin Mims to get more snaps. I want where's our corner that we just drafted? Where's our linebacker that we drafted? What about that center that we took a flyer on? Where's that safety that, we should be healthy by now? I mean, there were guys and guys and guys that we came on here and Broncos country talked about that's like, where are these guys? We never play our young guys. Well, guess what? We may have that opportunity now. We may see opportunity for some of these young guys, JL Skinner, as for instance, to be competing for that safety spot, something that we all wanted to see. Now we wanted to see it and be like, well, we want the security of a Justin Simmons. Well, we can't get it all, guys, and especially where we're sitting. Roy's coming in here. I'll just read this one. I've been throwing up everybody's comments and appreciate the posse jumping in, being part of the conversation. You guys have been fantastic. So can't say that he's totally surprised, but yes, he will be missed. And 100%, man. I don't think we can talk about the leadership aspect that he brings as well. That is huge. Another reason that I'd like to see him in Detroit, because I think he would just flourish in Detroit. The mindset, and the leadership that he could bring to that defense would be phenomenal, and give him a reason to be playing, because I think they'll be in the playoffs. I think they'll be contenders continuously. So in the near future, at least. So Pearl saying, Turner Yell, my feeling will not make the team next year. Hope I am wrong. Yeah, we don't want to hope against anybody losing their spot on this roster. We hope that they elevate to the best possible player they are, and the best possible player would be, a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro. I'd love to see Turner Yell do that. Might be a big stretch though, and this safety spot is going to be one that's now all of a sudden a concern. So,
Keith, before you go forward, I
yes,
have a
sir.
question for you in Broncos country. How would you feel if they went out in the free agent market and signed a safety for cheaper? Like, let's say CJ Gardner Johnson. What if him and Sean Payton have ties back to each other with Gardner Johnson being with the Saints? Broncos were rumored to be interested in him last year. What if they brought him in for
True.
cheaper? How would you feel about that? They may do that. They may do that. They may not just rely on the guys that are in house. They could also go sign a veteran guy, just also with Caden Stearns being a guy who gets injured quite
Yep.
often. So they
Yes.
may go out and go get just a cheaper veteran, maybe that's more connected to Sean Payton, maybe that fits them. They feel like better than a Justin Simmons, and you don't have to pay all that money to him. Oh,
Had some bad internet there for about that last little bit, bud. So you might have to repeat it. I just do want to say this. I want to jump into the posse and just say hello. And maybe it's me that's having the internet issues. I believe it's me that's
yeah, I
having the
think
internet
it's
issues. So Trevor, if you need to take over for a second,
yeah.
take over for just a second. I'll go ahead and I'll throw Michael's comment up and see if I can help things out here.
Yeah, good evening, Michael. Really appreciate you guys. Appreciate you coming in here and sticking with us. Yeah, so we're talking about Justin Simmons. So yeah,
Mm.
honestly, guys, Denver has a lot of different positions they can go. I mean, we don't know right now. What we know right now is they want to go cheaper, probably because they want to add to the team somehow, some way. Justin Simmons just ended up being a cap casualty. He ended up being
Yeah.
released. You just don't have the value obviously anymore, or they would have ended up moving them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They could also address it in the draft. I don't think it's going to be in the draft with the limited amount of picks they have currently, 6. Really hard to get a safety right now when you have so many different positions that you need to address. So I would say, just be wary, and they may go in different directions. We won't know. We'll get a better idea, I think, by next week at this time what this roster will look like. But we're heading into next year.
I'm going to try to ride this out. Internet seems like it's cleared for a second. If not, I do have a backup plan in place. So I think the interesting thing being that when Justin Simmons goes out there, and again, much respect to Justin Simmons. I think we'll move off it after this, but he was slated to get $18 million from the Denver Broncos. He's going to get nowhere near $18 million per year on the open market. The safety market is being reset. I heard somebody say, if we could pick up Justin Simmons for $7 million, that's the type of numbers that we're kind of maybe looking at. We might could be looking at a $7 to $10 million per year type of player at this point. Might be highly guaranteed, just being who he is and what he's done. But that being said, I don't see Justin Simmons signing anywhere near $18 million per year.
No, Spot Rack actually has him at 11.1 million. That's what
Okay.
they have him making. So you're right around that range where he might be. But still, teams will have money in free agency to get him, especially
Oh, yeah.
contenders. Especially contenders, will knowing that maybe they're safety away. They think so.
Yeah.
He won't get near the money that he would have got here in Denver with his current contract, but he's not gonna get skipped too much of a beat, I would say. But he's still gonna, he'll be fine going forward financially, no doubt about it. But
Yeah.
he'll be in a better situation. Sometimes players have to do that though. And that's just in sports in general. Sometimes them going to a contender, sometimes you have to take less money to do so. So
Yeah.
that's part of it as well.
Looking at probably like a 3-year, $33 million contract, $22 million guaranteed. Again, probably a better situation. He's getting that $22 million guaranteed. It's really a 2-year contract rather than a 3-year contract at that point. So, out in that last year, he is aging. He's 31 years old, if I remember correctly.
30, I believe.
Oh, 30, going to be turning 31. How about that?
Yep.
Justin Simmons number.
There you
That being said, that I wish him all the best. I wish him all the best and hope he goes to a contender. But keep in mind, again, we weren't going to pay him $18 million, but nobody else is going to pay him $18 million a year either. So it was a good resolution for our cap. And that being said, let's hit a few things because some news did come out today, man. Some big news, I guess, came out today. And as we expected, things are starting to move along. So I'm just going to hit all these. And then I want to ask that big question, and then we'll start to get into the other pieces and parts. But Mike McGlinchey restructured about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, that came out, I believe. Restructured his contract, converting $13.875 million of salary to bonus. He added one void year to his contract as well in doing this, but this added $11.1 million in cap space. That was huge, huge, huge. So now we put that on top of the $15 million that we saved in Justin Simmons as well, right? Yeah. Tim Patrick did come back. Brand new deal, though. Not on that $9.5 million he was going to be getting. No, he comes back on a league minimum, $1.2 million. That might be a number that Russell Wilson hears here in the near future as well. $170,000 per game roster bonus, though. That's how he's going to earn his money back, is if he can make the roster all 17 games, right? And then another one that you called, you pointed out in the chat as well, a release of Mr. Chris Manhertz that saves us $2.12 million. So this is all starting to add up. Last figure I saw before we went on the air, Broncos had about $20 million to play with right now as we speak, and certainly more to come. Oh, by the way, go ahead. I'll bring up another one here in a second. I got sidetracked with the comments a little bit, and we'll hit those as well.
Yeah, so I mean, again, that's Denver trying to get underneath the cap. That's exactly what it is. That they're trying to make moves, get underneath the cap. The Tim Patrick thing as well. I think it was honestly kind of in his shoes of what did he want to come back or not? Because Denver, I think, was always interested because they had big plans for him. I think the past 2 years, he just got hurt. So it's just bad injury luck. So I think he's been a guy they've been interested in bringing back for a while now. And he's a guy that, I mean, league minimum $1.2 million as a steal for them, especially with some of the decisions maybe coming up with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. It's good to have that wide receiver depth on this roster and a guy that when he's healthy that he can play well. So so that to me that was a no brainer if he was willing to come back on the minimum, bring him back. Chris Manhertz, again, he's a guy that I don't think ever fit with this roster. Never seemed like he ever did, and he's a blocker at the end of the day. But this tells me that Denver's looking to add another tight end of some sort. If that's in free agency or if that's in the draft, we won't know. We won't know. But I do think that they will have somebody. They have 3 tight ends on the roster currently
Mm,
right now, so I expect something there. And then Mike McGlinchey, yeah, I mean, restructuring. They could also restructure Zach Allen deal and also Ben Powers deal too.
yeah.
They can also put some of that money from the base salary to signing bonuses and pushing the money down the line. What it does with
Mhm.
Mike McGlinchey, though, with them doing that, it's interesting. They're kind of tying themselves down long term to Mike McGlinchey though, because you're putting that money into signing bonuses, which is a lot harder for them to move on from him down the line. So
Correct.
they're kind of saying, hey, we're going to stick with McGlinchey going forward. He's our right tackle of the future as well. And so that also is something that's to keep an eye on. But I mean, yeah, it's more Denver moving money around, try to get underneath the cap. They got to do it before Wednesday, the start of the new league year, the
Yep.
NFL. So I expect more moves over the weekend as well, and then probably something, and then we'll hear some more news on Monday. But we'll
Mm,
definitely get a good perspective of where this roster's at a week from now. I think that'll be pretty. That's pretty clear. Broncos are moving fast to get the guys they want.
mm.
It's actually probably going to start in house first with getting re-signing PJ Lock back.
Yeah, PJ Locke, Will Lutz, those are the 2 names that we really got to be watching right now. Those are the 2 big names that I think will be the next to re-sign with the Denver Broncos. Um, just wanted to jump back because Martin's been a fantastic supporter of the show over on YouTube. He's saying, here is hoping Justin Simmons wins a Super Bowl with his new team. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Not a better guy that could do it, even if he's not doing it in the orange and blue. So thank you very much, Martin, for jumping in here. Appreciate you being part of the show, man. Great supporter. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit as well. Chris Manhertz, I saw 6 starts, 2 touchdowns, never really was utilized within this offense. It made sense for us to move on from a Chris Manhertz as well. But we started seeing this with Justin Simmons. That's where I was kind of put our agenda together, and then all this other stuff started happening. But I think the question still is legitimate. Are we in a rebuild? Are we seeing Sean Payton, which a lot of Broncos country did not think he would ever embrace? He was in a win now mode, and that's the only way that he knows how to go about it. But are we seeing a rebuild of the Denver Broncos at this point?
Yeah, it's honestly, it kind of seems that way. I mean, you move on from Justin Simmons, you're kind of pointing in that direction. Not only is he a guy that on the field has great production, an all pro, but he's also leading that locker room. So you're getting not, you're affecting the locker room. That's what you're doing. So kind of shuffling things around. It seems like they're trying to rebuild the foundation. We've kind of hinted at this a little bit though during the offseason, and I remember I was saying that you got to rebuild the foundation a little bit. Maybe this year's not the year for a quarterback, and it kind of seems like the cards are starting to stack in that way a little bit more as
Hmm.
times go throughout this offseason. If we get closer to the draft, is maybe Denver doesn't take a quarterback this year. Maybe they just go best player available, or they trade back and get multiple picks and try to build this foundation back up again. It kind of if they're going to rebuild, also tells me that Sean Payton has a longer leash than we think. And just I say that because ownership's going to allow him to do that. They will never call it a rebuild, but you can see what they're doing. As far as the moves they're making, it's kind of
Hmm.
starting to, look like they're going in that direction. I never thought it's going to be a full rebuild. We'll see how far they go with it. I don't think they'll go all the way with it, but I definitely do think that they need more players in this team and just need to get better on all sides of the ball. Honestly, and they're just not just a quarterback away. It's
Hmm.
starting to feel like Sean Payton kind of thinks the same way.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a possibility, but I don't know if I'm sold on that. I don't know if he's out on a quarterback. I don't know if we're going to make a huge push for a quarterback, and that's might be the difference. One point I really thought Sean Payton, and I think a lot of Broncos country was nervous about this. Sean Payton, the GM, you speak about it a lot, Trevor. Sean Payton, the GM, I thought for sure we'd be moving up in the draft and we'd be in a quarterback. And we're in no position with this roster, as many have pointed out, to be moving up in the draft to get a quarterback. Um, just threw it up on the screen just a little bit from the posse. Mike Ronquillo talking about Quinn Bailey being signed, and that's somewhat interesting because there are a few other names that we still need to look at, and we can start to talk about here as we're talking about possibly a rebuild and possibly not. I think depending upon how some of these next few names that we talk about go, will really dictate if we are in a rebuild or if we are not. Quinn Bailey being added in. What are your thoughts now on a Garrett Bowles? Does a Garrett Bowles come back, or is he another guy that we're going to let loose? And Quinn Bailey was that kind of that insurance, kind of like Tim Patrick might be in an insurance, and we'll talk about that. Is Quinn Bailey in an insurance in case we do have to let go of one Garrett Bowles one way or another?
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of in the opposite direction. I think that they may be looking at keeping Bulls long term. It's hard to get a grasp of that right now, but his age scares me a little bit with keeping him even 3 years down the line. I mean, he's one of the older rookies in that 2017 draft class at tackle, so that's one of the knocks on him. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how you can, even if you're going to go quarterback in the draft, how you can sit there and say, oh, okay, we're going to go quarterback in the draft, but we're going to get rid of our starting left tackle and our starting quarterback and starting safety and all these guys. I mean, it's just like you have to keep some guys, and I understand if they get value back for Garrett Bowles, but man, I don't know. I don't feel great about them moving off from him right now. It's, with everything going on with Justin Simmons, and if you're gonna gut your roster, you got your roster, but man, that's difficult to put this team in that situation where it comes to putting whatever quarterback you get, if that's free market or the draft or in a trade, you're putting that quarterback in a real difficult situation, and your offensive line in a real difficult situation because
Yeah.
you're not just losing Garrett Bowles, you're also losing Lloyd Cushenberry. I said this as well throughout our show. I said Quinn Miners is your number one, is your best offensive lineman. Garrett Bowles is probably your number two best offensive lineman, and then Cushenberry is your number three best offensive lineman. You're going to lose 2 out of the 3 this offseason. That's a tough pill to swallow if I'm the Denver Broncos, and I just you should try to figure it out with Garrett Bowles, because if you don't, then you're going to have to pick up probably a tackle at 12. That's what we're talking about if they move off from Garrett Bowles. But I'm curious, Keith, to see what you think about Garrett Bowles, and will he be a Denver Bronco next year?
Wow, that's a good question, man. I gotta say aloha to Patrick. Patrick came in here as well. Mr. Patrick coming in here with Lion Coffee. Check out lioncoffee.com, unofficial sponsor of the Denver Bronco Roundup. Certainly sponsoring this low voice that I have tonight. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate you very much. Keeping me lubricated and keep me going. I think the Denver Broncos could certainly be in a rebuild. Like I said, I just don't. If we embrace the rebuild, there's certainly a possibility he's gone. And I think he could be that key piece, because if Garrett Bowles has moved on from, I think that you're in a rebuild mode, because there's options and there's way to bring him back. And I have one last question for you as well, but I think that's the key point. That's the tipping point. That's the cog in the wheel that's going to make everything turn one way or the other, rebuild or not. I think there's still opportunities to still be adding to this roster, putting talent together, possibly getting that quarterback, whether you're just sticking there at 12 or maybe even trading up a little bit. I'm okay with that. You don't have to, give away the farm to trade up a little bit. If you see a guy and he's happened to falling and you kind of really loved him and you want to make sure you get in front of a team, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. I'm not talking about going to number 1. I'm talking about trading up a little bit. That being said, Garrett Bowles has moved on from. I think that's a whole different story. Like you said, where are you at with your offensive line? Who are you putting back there? What are you going to expose that rookie to? What could be an obliteration, in one, all those things had to come into play. So I think it's a big, I don't know. It's like literally 50-50 in my mind, and it could go either way. I think it's the tipping point piece.
Do you think, real quick before we move on, do you think that they're clearing up some of this cap space to potentially bring back Lloyd Cushenberry and keep this offensive line together?
It is weird that this wasn't something that's been talked about, right? A release, anything like that. He's still hanging in the balance, and the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. Of course, we could say that about Garrett Bowles as well. The clock is ticking. So Are we looking at trade candidates? Are we looking at trying to restructure and bring these guys back in the door? It's tough to say, but it is odd that we haven't heard just a hey, we're just going to go ahead and let this guy go, because I don't know how tradable he is, and again, yeah, I would love to see a way to bring Lloyd Cushenberry back. I would love to. We don't develop talent around here. He's one of our young, talented pieces. That's what we should be investing in, everybody says, but everyone says, well, now we don't want him. He's outpriced himself now. Well, at some point you have to invest in your team a little bit too. So I wanted to hit this real quick before we got off the tackle question, because I saw this brought up on another podcast, and I wanted to get your thoughts. McGlinchey now is, as you said, we're tied to McGlinchey for a few more years. And we could all probably agree that we are not in love with the pass blocking of one Mike McGlinchey. Does this rule Penix out as a possible quarterback for the Denver Broncos, being that he's a left-handed quarterback and that would be his blind side?
I don't think it rules it out, in my opinion, because there's the different ways you can go about it. You can use a blocking tight end and put alongside McGlinchey. That's what the 49ers did a lot of the times. Is when he was asked to pass block, he didn't always wasn't always just one on one. They were able to put a tight end next to him. I don't think it
Mm,
completely rules it out, but I can see why someone would think that because of Penix being a lefty quarterback. I don't think the Broncos were overly high on Penix, anyways, in my opinion. But it's interesting they did bring him in, for the draft combine, but I think they're just doing, just doing their interviews and seeing what's out there and really look at all options that are available to them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I think it definitely raises some questions that like how interested they are in Penix
yeah.
as far as going forward because of that reason. And man, I just yeah, McGlinchey, he's got to get better though in general. I think
Mm,
maybe there's some hope that he also will improve his pass blocking a little bit. I know he's not
yeah.
known for that, but there's I think certainly room for him to improve. Hopefully, first year, new system, maybe second year he does bounce back and he does get better as a pass blocker. So I wouldn't completely rule out Penix, but it definitely I think slims the chances down a little bit.
Yeah. I would say unless McGlinchey, I think got better throughout the year, unless he was going up against an All-Pro and was left alone. Oh no, that was a different tackle that was out there. I forgot. I forgot. We actually did have Quinn Bailey out there for that when he was just getting obliterated, if I remember right, at the end of the year. But that being said, I think that McGlinchey actually improved throughout the year. I'm going to give him this. If we rewind, he had a passing in the family, one that he didn't even necessarily disclose who it was. He was gone throughout the first part of training camp. Um, it's tough. I don't know how close it was, but it was close enough for him to come in and need to have time off it rather than being at training camp. And then where's your mindset? How long does it take you to really get 100% focused, mind, body, everything, start performing on the field, start grasping the offense 100%, really get in the groove. I think it took him a while, and I wouldn't give up on Mike McGlinchey. I know he didn't show his best, but I think he did improve throughout the year, and I'm excited to see what he brings in year two, because we did invest in that offensive line. So, yes, as Pearl said, she agrees with me on Bowles. I think that's a tipping point. I wanted to hit Kenny's comment as well. Kenny of the great K&K Sports Show. Check those guys out. East Coast Cousins. Lots and lots and lots of sports coverage. Tons of podcasts. Seems like you just turn on the K&K Sports Show and there's going to be a show on. That's how often it is. So, but he comes in here and says, draft night will say a lot. If you trade back and grab draft capital, yes, it's a rebuild. If you trade up for a QB, I think you're saying we're a QB away from competing and not rebuilding. What are your thoughts? Okay, so he's saying forget about what we do in this in the free agency side of things, because really what it comes down to is what happens on draft night. What's your thoughts on that, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean that I can see that where he's coming from on that one. But if you're also going to get a quarterback, that would mean probably that Denver was decently active in free agency, so they probably filled all the holes they needed to in free agency. And this is the route I do not want them to go into because it's not worked. Kind of like they're patching holes, out with the old and in with the new as far as free agency. But they're going to try to trade up for a quarterback, not knowing what they have for sure in this roster going forward with releasing all these veteran guys or possibly moving on from some of these veteran guys. So Yeah, I could absolutely see where he's coming from. This is why. I mean, it's never a guarantee that when the team trades back, they're going to rebuild. But the Broncos situation in particular, yeah, I think that they would. It means that they're trying to build up the foundation more, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Or also maybe some of these guys that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, they might move on
Yep.
from getting more picks for. That might also tip their hand a little bit as well. What they're trying to do. I still think they're going to build the foundation to the draft. That's the best way to do so. Free agency is to fill holes and fill needs. But the draft comes, best player available. You got to start building foundation at some point in time. Sean Payton has done that. He's not shied away from going best player available and really building up a foundation as he did with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, yeah. He's a wild card in the draft, and that's why, like I said, I really thought this was going to be an all in. We're going after it, and it seems like, for all intents and purposes, when you start releasing a Justin Simmons and the like, uh, getting rid of a Chris Manhurts, yeah, I get Tim Patrick coming back on a minimum deal. Again, I feel this is kind of an insurance program, and we're going to get to this one next as well. This is a new face coming in, at least one that I haven't seen in a while. I apologize if I'm calling you a new face and you're like, hey, I've been here before. Appreciate you coming in, Brad. Brad Smith's coming in and saying, interesting, Jeudy hasn't been moved on yet. Love to see Jeudy stay. So we talked about those other pieces, man. This is one of those other pieces that we need to talk about. What are your thoughts on Jerry Jeudy? He's still on the roster. I will say he's the guy who has the largest guaranteed portion of a contract of all these guys that we've been talking about. So what are your thoughts on Jerry Jeudy and him being a Denver Bronco, him being released, other options? What's the status on Jerry Jeudy in your mind?
Yeah, so I mean, great question, Brad. And again, thanks for joining us here. Appreciate you having you on. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy, it's tougher to move on from him because you
Yeah.
can't just release him. You have to trade him, and he's got big money. He's on his 5th-year option, right? 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about, well, all these first round picks will get the 5th-year option. It is a little overrated at times because you are paying big money on their 5th year of their deal. So
Just
that's
to,
why,
just to that's just say call it a good 13 million.
yeah,
13 million is what he's getting paid,
yeah. So
guaranteed.
yeah, that's a pretty big bonus from what he got last year. So is the team gonna be able to and want to take on his deal when there's the great draft class, the wide receiver draft class this year, and there's free agents out there right now. Are they going to want to take on Jerry Jeudy? In my opinion, if the Broncos are going to trade Jerry Jeudy, they're probably going to have to eat some money to get draft capital back. His
Yeah.
value right now is not great. I will say that, and so I don't know if they're going to be able to move him this right now. I mean, it's kind of the
Mm.
whole thing. We go back to the trade deadline or last year. Maybe they should have moved off from some of these guys at that time. Get ahead of the horse when you can, and not
Yeah.
wait, and then their values diminish. That's why you have to see where you're at organizationally wise, and see where, hey, are we actually realistically going to win and go to the playoffs this year? If not, let's move some of these guys now, get more draft capital, and build for the future. Broncos didn't do that. Now you're seeing them kind of strapped a little bit. Now they're kind of having to just kind of cut guys, or they're just stuck with guys because they didn't do it. They didn't
Mm.
get ahead of the train a little bit. So the whole Jerry Jeudy thing, it's just based on trade. Will a team be interested in trading for him, and how much? And if so, how much money will the Denver Broncos have to eat to trade him and move off from him to get draft capital back for him? That's the thing. I don't think it's going to be much, honestly, much more than a 5th-round draft pick. I don't think it'll be much more than a fifth. And so that'll be interesting to see how much money they have to eat if they do move on from him. This is why I think Cortland Sutton might be a guy that's moved off from, because they can release him, just flat out release him, and not have to. The guarantees are not as harsh on Sutton's deal as they are with Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry Jeudy is, for whether Broncos country likes it or not, Jerry Jeudy was by far the most likely wide receiver to come back of any of the large wide receivers. Not talking Brandon Johnson or, you know, little Jordan Humphreys or anything like that, the small contract guys. I'm talking like fairly good money contract guys, which really consisted of Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy. Now, Tim Patrick completely renegotiated his contract. He's on that league minimum. Everything else is on bonus. So really cost the Broncos dang near nothing to have him in the building. But an opportunity for him to erase the last couple of years and maybe go out there and show that he's it's kind of a prove it contract. Whether it be for the Broncos or for somebody else, he's on a prove it contract this year to see if he has any potential moving forward. Jerry Jeudy with $13 million basically guaranteed this year. It's very tough. I mean, we talk about a guy like Cortland Sutton, who, if I remember right, is about $18 million, if I remember right, that he was going to be getting this year, this next upcoming year. Yeah, 17,395. So call it $17.5 million that Cortland Sutton is. $13 million for Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you might have people that are interested in a Cortland Sutton because of what he did last year, but there's not a whole lot of people that are going to be interested in a $13 million Jerry Jeudy on a 1-year deal. There's no, hey, it gets better a couple years from now, or anything like that. It's all or nothing, right? Really, this year. So that's a tough contract to trade. And I think you're right. I think we're sending money if we want a draft pick back at this point. And you brought it up now a couple of times. Should have tipped my cap to you before, but you're right. We should have been sellers earlier from everything it looks like here. Got to come in here and give big kudos to the posse. Mr. Graham coming in here over on YouTube saying, what a crazy day, guys. Insane. Didn't take many moves to lower the cap number as many thought, although they have to do a bit more. Yeah, there's more that we have to do. Michael Ronquillo coming in here, just catching up on a few comments. Might be a little bit behind, but Cushenberry is going to get at least 18 to 20 million. That is money the Broncos don't have to re-sign him. I would say this. What did we just talk about with Mike McGlinchey, though?
Yeah.
Mike McGlinchey we magically freed up $11.1 million because we gave him it all in a big signing bonus up front, and we gave him a long contract. Well, who's better for a long contract than a young center? Because that's really what you have in Lloyd Cushenberry. They can get it done. It's whether they want to or not at this point, whether they want to invest in Lloyd Cushenberry or whether they don't. Kind of like a Garrett Bowles, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, because he's now nearing the end of his career, as far as that left tackle, not at the very beginning.
That might be a little high for Cush too, by the way. $18-20 million. That's a little high for a center. I don't know if he'll get that much money, but probably more like the $12-13 million range. That's where I think he'll be get. But 18-20, I'd probably just let him walk, honestly, if he wanted that much.
Why don't you go ahead and hit your sport track real quick? I'm going to read Martin's and see what Lloyd Cushenberry is coming up at. See what that contract value would be. He says, I see it, but thinking we're a quarterback away from a Super Bowl is what got us into this trouble in the first place. Yeah. Yeah. We've done that a few times, I think, but we've also burnt ourselves. And it's the reason I think Broncos country are ready for the Broncos to invest in a quarterback in the draft and pick a quarterback high in the first round. When was the last time we took a quarterback in the first round? Wow, it's been a long time. That's I don't. I can't even remember the last time we took a quarterback in the first round. I at one point I had all this information at the tip of my tongue. Now I got to do this show, and I got all these great comments. Graham's coming in here. He says, also, thanks for helping me understand the cap stuff better. Math isn't my strong suit. No problem, buddy. Glad that we could help out in some way.
So I have, Keith, before you get to other comments, I have Cushenberry's average annual salary up. So this is spot rack here. $8.2 million is what they have with Cushenberry, his market value at. The market value is 4 years, $32 million. So I was right around that range. So they can't afford them. They're not. It's not going to be $18-20 million. Usually centers don't get that much. Usually, unless teams want to overpay for them. But that $8 to $14 million range, that's usually where centers kind of get paid at. So Cushenberry's on the lower end of that. So that's good. Maybe that they do. They have $18 million right now, but there's more moves to be made. Maybe they do bring back Cushenberry. Maybe they told McGlinchey. This is just me spitballing here, but maybe they just said, Mike, you take less money, we can bring back Cushenberry and bring back this offensive line. Is that crazy to think that, Keith?
Yeah. Hey, I think that's certainly a possibility, man. Like I said, I've been a big push for Kush to come back, man. I think he's improved. I think he went through 3 different offenses, 3 different offensive coordinators. He had his best year last year. Centers are so tough to get. Centers, you don't pluck these guys off of trees. Everyone's like, "Oh, just let him walk. We'll get one. Forsyth can do it." Well, we don't know that. We don't know that at all. Look how long Kush struggled before he was able to be look like a capable center out there. We finally got pieces and parts kind of working together, and you're like, no, that guy wants money. Let him walk. We'll just bring in whoever. No, let's not play that game. Someone just pointed out that we played that game with quarterbacks. Let's not play that game with center either. We invested. It's a young guy. Let's go ahead and keep developing him, and we can set him up on a contract where we can be out in a couple of years if we really needed to be out in 2 to 3 years. Question came up. Oh, by the way, Tim Patrick, team player, absolutely. Restructuring the way he did. Don't get me wrong. I don't know how many other opportunities he would have had. But you know what? He's always been there. He's always loved the Denver Broncos, and glad to see him suit up in the orange and blue for another season. Is Sutton guaranteed? First off, let's hit, because we were talking about all these different receivers. This is another name we need to get to. Overall, his cap hit over the next 2 years is basically $18 million per year over the next 2 years. So $36 million of his contract is guaranteed. $18 million a year, let's just call it, is what we're looking at. The potential out is right now, making it a 3-year, $34 million contract with it was going to be a $7 million dead cap. But guess what, guys? He restructured and he put more money on it. So we're tied to him for the most part. But at the same time, I think here is your opportunity to go ahead and possibly get some relief. His overall dead cap is about $12 million. So we do see about a relief of about $6 million if we just release Courtland Sutton. I don't think that's going to happen. But that being said, what do you think about Courtland Sutton being traded, being released? What are your thoughts around him and basically getting paid $17 to $18 million over the next couple of years in that contract? Where does he go? Where do we go?
Yeah, I wouldn't be so sure that he doesn't get released if they don't get the right trade value for him, because they can save $10 million just with Courtland Sutton. So I wouldn't be so sure that they wouldn't release him. If they can't find a trade partner for him, that's what would be my guess. But my guess right now is they're trying to do everything they can to try to get a trade going with Courtland Sutton if they don't feel like he's coming back. But $18 million, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on how much the Broncos want to do in free agency, how much cap room do they want to have? Because you have DJ Jones that we haven't even got to yet. He's a guy that they're thinking about. Then you want to restructure one of Ben Powers, as well. You could do that. So Zach Allen, that's another guy that they could possibly restructure and push some money down the line and create more cap space. So just depends on how much the Broncos want to do in free agency. Knowing Sean Payton, I think he'll push the pennies down the line a little bit, and he will try to get as much cap space as he possibly can to make this roster better before the draft. Courtland Sutton, if I had to guess, I think he's gone. But my biggest thing is I think is going to be a trade or a release. I think Sutton may want to go elsewhere as well, as far as maybe he wants to go win. He's starting to kind of get up there. He's going to be 30 this year, coming up on this year. So he's going to be getting up there in age. Kind of lies with Justin Simmons. These are guys that want to win at some point in their careers. Maybe he wants to go elsewhere. Also, he was pretty close to Russell Wilson. How does he feel about having yet again another quarterback to throw him the ball and try to get that connection? I don't know. He probably ain't too happy about that. So I think Courtland Sutton's gone. Just going to be depending on, can they find a trade partner for him, and if they can, are they willing to eat a little bit of money to get a better draft pick for him? I don't think his value is too high. Probably a 4th round pick is what you're looking at right now for Courtland Sutton. But we shall see what ends up happening the next couple of days. I think something will happen this weekend with Sutton before free agency officially opens up.
Wow. Sutton gone. Wow. That's huge, man. We're starting to get rid of some of those leaders on our team. For for all intents and purposes, your quarterback, your QB1 has got to be your leader. And Russell Wilson was a leader. He rallied a lot of people in those locker room, in the locker room, had a lot of supporters in that locker room. Cortland Sutton being probably the largest one, the only one that was actually let in on, everything that was happening behind the curtains with Russell Wilson. It's the only guy that had that connection with Russell Wilson and was kind of let in the fold as far as the locker room was concerned. So, wow, how big of a difference. I'll tell you this, man, if all of a sudden you think Sutton is that likely to be gone, I think that's a pretty good push towards a rebuild at that point. And maybe you still end up keeping a Garrett Bowles because you have it. But let's get to a couple of these other guys. We talked about Jerry Jeudy. We talked about Cortland Sutton. Don't have to talk about Tim Patrick. That was another one that was, like I said, rumored. DJ Jones and Zach Allen. Let's talk about those two guys just in tandem. I'll let you go first. And what are your thoughts on both of these guys?
Yeah, so DJ Jones, I think he's going to be gone as well. I think George Payton kind of really pointed it out that Denver's, was not very good at stopping the run defensively. DJ Jones is the guy in the middle. I would expect that he's probably going to be gone. I think at the holdup right now is they're probably trying to see if they can get a trade. There was a rumor out there with the 49ers that the 49ers were interested in trading for him. I don't know how much I buy of that. They really would really have to believe in him, but they're not going to get much back for him. Maybe a sixth round draft pick, if that. But it's just, I think DJ Jones is probably gone. If they release him, it's $10 million. It's off their books, right around $10 million. So I think it's another guy that's probably gone because I will say this with DJ Jones. I do think that the Broncos will, maybe not the first tier, second tier, maybe third tier. They'll probably fix the defensive line at some point in time in free agency. That's where I think they'll probably spend their money at. And honestly, they probably need to because I think that we talked about throughout the season, and now it's like with all these quarterback talks and wide receiver talks, it's kind of getting a little overlooked a little bit. They need to fix that defensive line.
Yeah.
Zach Allen was the only guy there that made any push. He's the only guy that you were really getting much production out of it. So I think you have to address that, and I think DJ Jones being gone is probably going to be that. With Zach Allen, I'm not sure that they're going to restructure his deal just because also with the season he had, I'm not sure that they would restructure his deal. But I do think one of him or Ben Powers could be a restructure candidate, depending on how much money the Broncos want to spend in free agency and who they want. Also,
Yeah.
So that'll come into play. It's hard to say right now which one of those guys that will restructure other than McGlinchey, but yeah, it's going to be interesting next few days. But Keith, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about as far as DJ Jones and like McGlinchey or not McGlinchey, Ben Powers and or Zach Allen. Are they going to be restructured?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you all about that. But first, I'm going to tell you about someone I almost forgot about, and that's our fantastic sponsor. Can you imagine? Can you imagine not remembering about Morgan Trinkets? Morgan Trinkets is fantastic, guys. They're your Southwest jewelry and pottery headquarters. And I tell you what, if you need estate gold at wholesale prices, they're your headquarters as well, man. They're like Dove Valley of all this stuff, man. That's the place you go. Started in 1990, 33 years experience, once nationwide. Now they just concentrate in that northern Colorado and that southern Wyoming, kind of Cheyenne area as well. Again, specialty in that Southwest jewelry, pottery, and estate gold, but it has silver, real silver for anywhere from $10 to $2,000. And that real gold, it's real gold. I mean, that gold is real gold. I'm sorry. 10, 14, and 18 karat gold. Guys, check out Morgan Trinkets online through Facebook. That's the best way to get a hold of them. And I think I'm going to go ahead and copy this in real quick, guys. So Morgan Trinkets is the place to go. Like I said, online through Facebook. They do all their transactions through PayPal. If you happen to catch them at one of their fantastic shows, they got one coming up at the end of the month, so check them out on Facebook. Then they can transact however you like. All your major credit cards are accepted as well. So, guys, check out Morgan Trinkets. Again, Southwest jewelry and pottery, as well as estate gold at wholesale prices. They're your headquarters. Check them out today, guys. And as far as what I think on Ben Powers, what I think as far as Zach Allen, yeah, these guys are young guys. These guys are course, I'm going to have internet issues right about now, right? Right about now. So let me see if I can get
Yeah.
this reconnected, and I apologize if I'm having any issues here, you guys, but get this reconnected. I'll let you take over for a second, buddy.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys. So that's something to keep in mind. With Zach Allen and or Ben Powers, if they're gonna, restructure those guys, they're pushing money down the line. You're gonna be a little bit more handicapped for those guys going forward. So it's something to keep in mind. What do the Broncos want to do with these guys? Do they want to keep them long term, or do they want the flexibility of moving off of them here in a couple years or not? So that's something to keep in mind. It's really tough to see and tell what Sean Payton wants to do. I do expect him to push the line a little bit as far as players to get and to be aggressive in free agency. So it'll be interesting to see what Sean Payton does. Also, you got to think about maybe the possibility of the Broncos going after a quarterback. And that's also part of this discussion is, what quarterback what they want to go out and get. Is it one in free agency or is it one that you have to trade for? Well, that's either way. It's part of the salary cap. So but it'll be interesting to see what the Broncos do. Um, Jerome Munoz here, we got him. He says Justin Fields would be a good choice for quarterback. Jerome Munoz, thanks for joining us as well. I really appreciate you being here and being a part of the Denver Bronco Roundup family, the Roundup royalty, as we like to say. Justin Fields, I'm not sure Justin Fields is a guy that would be a fit here in Denver. I think he kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson in a way, so I'm not sure he would be a good fit here. Sean Payton wants a quarterback that plays within the structure of the offense, and Fields hasn't proved to do that to this point. He's a guy that loves to get outside the pocket and play out of the structure. I don't think a lot of teams are also interested in Justin Fields like everybody seems to be. That's why I don't think you've seen him move yet. But I don't expect the Broncos to be interested in him. Guys like Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, some of those guys like that might be guys that the Broncos might be interested in more than Justin Fields. That's because it's just Sean Payton fit, not necessarily because of the talent. It's more about fit than just straight up talent going forward as far as who's going to be the Broncos' next quarterback for next season.
I'm making you ride solo too much tonight, buddy. Appreciate you jumping in there, taking care of me. Hopefully, most of the sponsorship was all taken care of. Again, check out Morgan Trinkets, and that's it in the link in the comments as well, guys. Thanks for taking care of me, Trevor. Wanted to say a good hello, boys, to Mr. Kurt Valente as well. Got the whole KK Sports Show coming in here. We got Kurt, Kenny, got Scoops. We're only a few guys away, man. We'd have the entire crew, so appreciate that. Martin's got a good question, man. What is Sutton's league value, and what can we get in free agency for about $8 million a year to replace him?
Well, you're probably Martin. Thanks for the question again. Appreciate you
Yeah.
joining us tonight. Yeah, I don't think that Denver would go shopping on the free agent market for a wide receiver. I think you're probably releasing Sutton and rolling with what you have, and then probably going into the draft, maybe going after a wide receiver. It'll be interesting to see where Sean Payton likes. Michael Thomas is expected to get released. Maybe this is a guy that Sean Payton wants to take a chance on. He was a big part of what Sean Payton and the Saints did there in New Orleans. So maybe that's a guy to take a chance on. Again, I just think the Broncos wanted to find a way to get a little bit cheaper and then try to bring in this, Sean Payton's guys per se. We talk about the rollover. We've seen it a little bit last year. Sean Payton guys. We've seen the Ben Powers, Mike McGlinchey, Zach Allens of the world. That was the first wave of Sean Payton players to come through Denver. Now it's this offseason. He's getting rid of Justin Simmons of the world, and Russell Wilson, the guys that were already here before he got here. So we're really going to start seeing Sean Payton bring in his own guys. He's the one in charge. It's clear as day. Again, I wouldn't get rid of Sutton, but I think that there's a possibility that Sutton and Broncos both want to move on. I think that Sutton's been a part of this Broncos team for a while now, and he really hasn't had stability at quarterback. Maybe he wants that going forward.
Yeah.
We always think about it on the team side of things. We also have to think about what the player thinks as well. What's best for him going forward. I'm not trying to say Justin Simmons don't want to be a Denver Bronco, but he can't be happy right now with the alternate door when it comes to quarterbacks coming through Denver. It seems like left and right. It's hard to get a connection with those guys going forward. So
yeah, absolutely. Quarterback or head coach for that matter.
Yeah.
It seems like it's been a constant. Nothing has been solid or in place at all. One thing I would say in regards to this as well, look for the Broncos to be later players in this. You're talking about the wide receiver draft class being pretty dang good. You're talking about the Denver Broncos, and talk about a rebuild, they decide they're going to take $85 million all in one fell swoop this year, you're looking at, again, taking a post-June 1st cut, which means that money isn't available until after June 1st to start to spend. So you see these guys come in and they're drafted and they're signed, and then you see more releases and guys that end up on the street. And that wide receiver class could be pretty good later in the cycle. So that could be a place that the Broncos look to add, in addition to what you were saying, kind of rolling with what we have. That's where I think we could start to see some of those additions come in, those later signees that you see come in sometimes as well. So great question, Martin. And I got a great question from John real quick, and then we'll have to start wrapping up on some of this, bud, and get ready for the crazy weekend that will be the Denver Broncos offseason. We're expecting a lot. Should be a fantastic Tuesday show. We'll see that coming up, because with that Wednesday deadline coming up, it'll be interesting. But John's coming in here over on YouTube. Appreciate you, John, coming in and saying, trade Jeudy for Mac Jones. Both were 15th overall pick in the respective drafts a year apart. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're talking about the value of a Jerry Jeudy. You're talking about the value of a Mac Jones. Heck, I think the last time we spoke, you were saying just wait for Mac Jones to be released, and then maybe we could go ahead and pick him up, because that's a possibility if they don't find any suitors. Feels like that's almost where we're at with a Jerry Jeudy as well. Maybe it's a good swap. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that's an interesting trade right there. Kind of one guy that's not very well liked in one fan base to the next guy that's not very well liked in the other fan base. So that'll be an interesting deal. Not sure that either team would pull that off. I don't know where the market is for Mac Jones. I think teams are higher on him than what other maybe fans are on him. And so that'll be interesting to see what happens with Mac Jones. I don't know. I think it's just you could probably just get Mac Jones probably for a fifth, sixth round draft pick, though. How much you're going to want to do that, I'm not sure. It depends on what Sean Payton thinks of him. If I believe when Mac Jones is coming out in the draft, I'm pretty sure Sean Payton was pretty high on him. That's why I'm kind of connecting the Mac Jones to Denver. And listen, this is a guy I know that a lot of Bronco fans are not a fan of him, and a lot of people aren't. This is a guy that had a defensive mind as his offensive coordinator. How are you expecting that guy to progress and to get better? I feel for Mac Jones being that guy that's has to deal with that. And oh, by the way, your head coach isn't even a head coach this year. What does that say? I mean, so that's just it's a difficult situation. These guys are in difficult situations. I go back to the whole Baker Mayfield thing last year, where a lot of people were not high on Baker Mayfield. He's done. He's a backup. What did he do? He kind of resurrected his market, and now he's going to get paid $20+ million a year. So anything can happen in the NFL. There's not just one particular formula to go by. Sean Payton, that being said, he's an offensive mind. He can do. I mean, if he thinks he can get the best out of Mac Jones, why not go for it? You're using his offensive mind. Let's see it. Let's see if Sean Payton's a great offensive mind. Give him a quarterback like Mac Jones. If he wants that reclamation project, he had that in New Orleans. He had a little bit of success with that. Let's see what he can do here in Denver. Why does he have to have the first round pick and be a quarterback in this year's draft? Maybe we can roll it. Maybe he can go with Jalen Jones and get productive out of it. Who knows? But let's see. Keep your options open. Let's see what happens going forward. We have to trust in Sean Payton regardless. I know maybe we don't want to, but we have to try to trust him as much as we possibly can, because we are stuck with Sean Payton for at least 2 more years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say 2 to 3. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no implosion. There's no Nathaniel Hackett. Speaking of another guy that maybe isn't the best coach to be, helping a quarterback and doesn't have a head coaching job. Anyway, I digress a little bit, but I did want to get, because we got to wrap this up, but I wanted to hit Kurt's fantastic K&K Sports Show. Check out the K&K Sports Show. Good cousins on the East Coast. He says, we got to sign one of these big running backs. Henry, Barkley, Jacobs. Sean Payton loves Jacobs. What is your thoughts on the running back room? Obviously, Javonte was on the mend coming back. We all had big hopes, but at the same time, not a lot of expectations, at least to start the very beginning. We were like, if he could play week 1, that would be crazy. That's crazy talk. And then he comes out and he doesn't have the 2,000-yard season, or doesn't put up a phenomenal year, and we're like, yeah, need to move on from Javonte. It's amazing how that can change so quickly. But we didn't utilize Pirine. McLaughlin's sitting in the back room, with possibilities as well. But do we need to go get one of these running backs? What are your thoughts for Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, I love Kurt's idea because I like Josh Jacobs a lot as well, and you're taking away from a division rival with the Las Vegas Raiders. So I love Josh Jacobs. Do I think realistically the Broncos will go after running back? I don't think so. I
Mm,
think Jaleel McLaughlin is a guy that Sean Payton wants to get involved with the offense more. They're probably banking on Javonte Williams coming back, ready to roll this year, coming off that injury. Clearly wasn't himself last year. And then P Ryan coming back as well. You kind of stacked a little bit in the running back room. I don't know that you want to use the cap that you just got to go after a running back. It's probably going to cost you around $8 to $10 million a year. I don't
yeah,
know that you want to use that to that, to that extent to go get a running back like that. Again, I'm interested in Josh Jacobs any other year if you got the cap flexibility to do so. This year, probably don't have the cap flexibility to go get a running back this year like that. But again, I love all those names that he mentioned. Josh Jacobs to me probably stands out the most. Just with his, Barkley's been injured too much, in my opinion. He's great when he's on the field, but injuries, we don't you don't want to deal with that. I think if you're the Broncos, if you don't have to deal with injuries being a big problem in the running back room. We already have that problem with Javonte Williams. So, but I don't expect the Broncos to be players in the running back room. Again, defensive line is probably what they're going to be looking at. There's
yeah,
a chance at a cheap safety, maybe a veteran corner they come at some point in time. Again, they're not going to be big players. They're not going to be first wave, free agents that the Broncos are going to go after. I think it'll be second wave guys, maybe guys that fall out of the first wave of free agency. But the Broncos, with all this cap they're creating, they still don't have enough to go out to be big swingers in free agency.
yeah, absolutely. I like this. I just saw it pop up, but Javonte is going to be a beast next year. I guarantee it. And you can go through it in my face if I'm wrong. You can throw it in my face if you're wrong, but I'm not. I love it, Martin. I would love Javonte to come back, man. Talk about it. Just a humble dude, nice dude. Met him down at training camp as well. Super, super great guy. Wish him nothing but the best, and would love him to, you know, take that beast mode sword. What do they have on Good Morning Football? When oh, I digress. I need to I need to get it lined out before I start making references. I want to end with this though, man. End a little bit saucy here.
Do it.
It wasn't. I think it was. I don't know if it was supposed to be a direct flight to Pittsburgh, but we had a detour in New Jersey,
Ooh,
and then we go to Pittsburgh,
ooh.
and everyone's telling this particular gentleman that he needs to go to Las Vegas, and he's considering it. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson? First off, talking with the New York Giants. Second off, heading into Pittsburgh, even though reports were out, hey, Pittsburgh's not interested in a veteran quarterback. That's not what they're looking at. And then, per reports, everyone close to Russell saying you should go to Vegas, and Russell considering Las Vegas. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson's next destination?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're in this situation with Russell Wilson where man, he's starting to go on tour. Seems like he's just going anywhere he possibly can, to whatever quarterback opening there is. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still think Pittsburgh's probably best scenario for Russell Wilson. The Raiders, they have players, but they just to me, they're not just a quarterback away either, in my opinion. Like, they have Crosby on the defense side of the ball. They have Devontae Adams, but Josh Jacobs may not be there. We just talked about him. He may not be there. What
Yeah,
do we say? What do we say about Russell Wilson? Biggest problem here in Denver. He didn't have a running game.
yeah,
Well, if you don't have Josh Jacobs, where's your running game? So I still think it's going to be Pittsburgh. A team to watch also for is Minnesota Vikings. Might be a team that is going to be in play for him down the line. If Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta or goes somewhere else, Minnesota could be a team that picks Russ up on a 1 year deal. They have O'Connell
mm.
there. He has wide receivers there. He's got Hawkinson. He's
Oh
got
yeah, it'd be
Addison.
wonderful.
He's got Jefferson. He's got players. So those are the big guys for me. I know Kenny's huge on him going to the Giants. The Giants don't have, where's the playmakers? And then there's something about Darren Waller might be retiring. There
Mm,
was a rumor out there, so it's just where's his playmakers? I know that Kenny says in the draft, but man, you're really banking on that you get one of those playmakers in the draft. So for me, best scenario is Pittsburgh or Minnesota. If those teams don't work out, then I can see him pivoting to the Giants or the Raiders
mm.
or another team if it don't work out with Pittsburgh or Minnesota, if Minnesota don't get Kirk Cousins back. So interesting to hear about Russell Wilson as well. But it's. I think Russ is gonna have to wait a little bit. I think he's gonna have to wait a little bit. I talked about this last show.
Mhm.
You're gonna let the market kind of sit. Also, don't rule out Ryan Tannehill being a guy to go to Pittsburgh as well if they're looking for a quarterback because of his ties to Arthur Smith, his former OC in Tennessee. So
Yeah.
we'll see what the tides turn. But man, Russell Wilson seems to come up in our podcast quite often, and it won't be the last time he comes up in our podcast either. I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be in the news cycle. You got to
Yeah.
follow it, especially if once I heard that there's a lot of reports that the people close to Russell Wilson are saying Las Vegas Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. You know, I'm a little bit concerned with the reports that did come out in Pittsburgh for Russell Wilson that they don't want to go there because if that happens to be the case and Kirk Cousins stays in Minnesota and the Atlanta Falcons trade for Justin Fields, all of a sudden the spots start drying up as far as the position. And there was reports that, or someone said, "Oh, Russell Wilson's not going to leave Pittsburgh." If that's where they're at, if Pittsburgh's putting that much out on the table and trying to recruit him, I think Russell should sign because I think if he's in that waiting mode that you were talking about, he could find himself all of a sudden scrambling to try to find a guaranteed starting position type of job. Because let's face it, even if he goes to Atlanta, they're not going to go, okay, Russell Wilson's just our guy for the next 3 years. No reason to worry about our backup. No, they're going to probably be drafting with that number 8 pick a quarterback. So again, you look at a place like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is his best option. If Kenny Pickett can't compete with him, they're going to be out on Kenny Pickett for all intents and purposes. And Russell Wilson really has that job.
Mhm.
That's his best option. I could see Minnesota would be a wild option. I haven't necessarily heard that one. Aiden O'Connell's not going to be that big a competition or shouldn't be that big a competition for Russell Wilson in Las Vegas. Another good spot and some good pieces and parts around him. So again, a few spots. We'll keep talking Wilson, even if we get our comments like from Ernie Mays coming in saying Rust Wilson is washed up. Go Broncos country only. Hey, now we can say that and be kind of separated from it, right?
Yeah.
He's not. He's officially looking to be off our roster. But guys, we appreciate you being part of the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, man. We're on here every Tuesday, every Friday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We love you. Love coming in here, having all these fantastic comments. Man, you guys blew it up tonight. I know that there's a lot going on, and we appreciate you joining us, being part of the conversation, hopefully gaining a little bit of knowledge as well, man. We try to be coming in here well-rounded, kind of as unbiased as possible. I love that a good friend of ours over on MHH, he says, his name is Scott Kennedy, he says there's no such thing as unbiased. We all have bias. The best we can do is try to erase them as much as possible. And we try to do that, kind of come in here, be grounded, give you guys our thoughts, and let you guys express your thoughts as well. But I'm going to give Trevor some time to give some final thoughts, and then we better get out of here, buddy.
Yeah, so big thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. Again, you guys are awesome. We do this for you. We will be back again Tuesday. Better, ready to dive deep because there'll be a lot of news. Watch out for a lot of Broncos news this weekend because there's going to be news. There's more moves coming. If that's Cortland Sutton, if that's DJ Jones, maybe a restructure here too. There'll be more moves coming. It just, I think the Broncos are just trying to see if they can trade some of these guys if in fact they want to move on from some of them. So I think it's what's holding it up, and we just never know what the Broncos are going to do. And Sean Payton likes to keep things close to the vest. So you just don't know.
Oh
But
boy.
they keep an eye out for everything because it's going to be wild and crazy next week because we have free agency. Well, the new league year will start Wednesday, but free agents will start signing and agreeing to deals in principle on Monday.
Yep.
So we will get news fast in a hurry. So again, just keep us keep us no notification bell going and so like subscribe, and guys, we're going to continue to give you great content, and thanks to some of those new guys that came in here today. And
Absolutely.
sorry guys if I got some of the names wrong, because I jumped in there a little bit, but thanks for working with me, and go Broncos, and have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you here back here next weekend, or next week per se, not next
Yeah.
weekend. We're not going to go too far.
Yeah.
Next week. That's what I meant to say. But love you guys. Go Broncos, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're thinking it's the regular season when we jump in on those Sunday shows, and we're going to see you next weekend. Absolutely, man. Want to give shout outs to all our fans out there. Like I said, appreciate everyone. I don't care if it was, I don't care who it was. So I'm gonna run off a few names that I just see in the chat, guys. Left Twix, Kenny Kirkpatrick was in here as well. Martin, thank you so much. Scoops coming in here. Who else we got in here? Of course, we had Pearl in here. We had Patrick in here. We had Michael Ronquillo in here. Man, did I already say Kenny Kirkpatrick? We also had Kurt Valente in here as well. Mr. Graham, thank you so much for always jumping in, being part of the show, it seems like. And I apologize, but our newer users, I've already scrolled past that I mentioned earlier in the show, but really appreciate, and I don't have the memory. If you can tell by the beard, I'm getting old, I'm getting gray, don't have the memory. I'm trying to keep this all on track, but appreciate every single person that comes in here, especially all the new people that have joined us in the fold. We're growing, and we're growing big, and we're growing strong, and it seems like our numbers just keep increasing week after week. It's because of all of you, because you guys like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button. If you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify, maybe you're leaving us a great review. We appreciate that as well. I'll tell you one thing. This guy right over here, if you're looking to maybe keep up on Monday on everything that's going down, I would check out his Twitter feed, man. This guy is pretty up on some Broncos stuff. And Trevor, you've been nailing it, man. I appreciate all the content you've been doing over on the old X. I shouldn't say Twitter. It's X now. Has been for a while.
Yeah, appreciate you, Keith. And yeah, guys, I'll keep you up informed, over there. Go follow me on Twitter at Trevor Salzman on Twitter if you guys have it. Also on Facebook as well. I try to update everybody on what's going on and kind of give my takes on certain things as they happen. So, we're going to be back in full force on Tuesday, but we'll keep you guys informed and talk a little bit of Broncos with you guys. And I really appreciate all of you guys, because you guys are honestly really amazing. The Roundup royalty, there's nothing else like it. So all these new names coming in here, there's nothing else like the Roundup royalty. And appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, guys. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. I know I just got snow, so had to shovel a little bit today. So hope you guys aren't having to deal with snow, but have a great weekend, guys, and go Broncos.
Yeah, I'm laughing at you, man. I don't have to worry about snow. It was a beautiful day, and we got even more beautiful days lined up around the how's that even possible, man? We were getting the beautiful weather, and you're all socked in. Loving it. Pearl's coming in saying I'm young compared to you. Well, I appreciate it. Ladies, gentlemen, appreciate you guys all so much. Again, Tuesdays, Fridays, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We got to get out of here. Thank you so much. Keep up to speed. Oh, by the way, RockyMountainSN.com, great way to keep up to speed on everything. We're brought to you by, because I almost forgot that, brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network, RockyMountainSN.com. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, over on X as well. I'll tell you this, guys, Rocky Mountain SN, they got you covered from stem to stern when it comes to Colorado sports. So Broncos, Rockies, Nuggets, Avalanche, got you all taken care of. Don't forget about our fantastic sponsor, Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets for all your Southwest jewelry, pottery, and wholesale, or estate gold at wholesale prices. I've been mixing that up a little bit lately. And don't forget, it's all real gold, 10, 14, 18 karat gold. So, guys, check out Morgan Trinkets as well. We got to get out of here. We're going to be seeing you again here real soon. But until then, guys, remember, keep your feet in your stirrups, keep the guns in your holsters, and keep the Broncos in your heart. Until next time, we're out of here. Thank you, Justin Simmons.